This is a Blairing Out with Eric Blair show, and today we're here at the birth of a new supergroup, Dio Disciples, a band that is keeping the spirit of Ronnie James Dio alive. And I'm here with bass player extraordinaire, James LoMenzo.
Thank you, Eric. You're exactly right. That's exactly what we're doing here. We're keeping the spirit, Ronnie's spirit alive through his music. And this band is based around his touring band of the past 5 years. And I have to say, it's moving for me to be part of it because these guys are so heartfelt about bringing this out, and not in a self-aggrandizing kind of way. I mean, you know, I wasn't. Rudy Sarzo was initially going to do this as well, but he's got other contractual commitments. So the fellows had asked me to do this, as well as Wendy, and they said, "Would you fill in? Because we really have to have, you know, Ronnie's band up there to carry this out." And they're driven to do it. The music's fantastic. We have some great singers. Tim Ripper Owens is singing lead, and Toby Jessup is singing as well. And the fantastic part about these guys is that they each have their own voices, and they're really kind of bringing the spirit of Ronnie's voice to the forefront. They don't sound like Ronnie. I don't think there's anybody who can. I think having two singers up there doing it is kind of testimony to that, as it is. But there's a great vibe in there, and it's you know, for me it's bittersweet, because I was such a fan of Ronnie's, and I got to meet him and hang out with him a few times when we were on tour, and he was just the most genuine person, you know, for a demigod. Yeah, that's the way I saw him. Totally. One of the more genuine people that you'd ever want to meet in your life. So, I mean, like I said, this is bittersweet for me, but it's just wonderful to be a part of this.
Now, James, Ronnie always had the greatest musicians in his band, and there's no difference with Dio's Disciples. This is you are the cream of the crop of the rock musicians out there, and I just want to let people know a little bit about your pedigree. You were in White Lion.
Yeah,
during their successful period.
Yes.
And you played with Zakk Wylde. You actually went in the studio with Ozzy Osbourne and recorded what was supposed to be Osmosis, but those tapes were never used. But the fact that you played with Ozzy Osbourne is amazing.
Yeah, there's actually some of my parts on there. But I have to say, when Geezer came into do, because that's what ended up happening, they redid the album through the record company didn't like the direction it was going in, even though to my ear it sounded similar. Yeah. But Geezer came in and did a lot of the bass parts. Not verbatim, but it sounded very similar to the kind of stuff that I would play, because I was probably emulating him in the end. But yeah, there's some of my things they kind of cut in there, so I'm still part of the family on that thing. I also sang with Zakk on No More Tears. There's a bunch of my vocals on there. Cool. It just occurred to me when you brought that up, so I thought I'd throw that out there. Before White Lion, I should tell you that I was playing with Bobby Rondinelli and his brother. Bobby Rondinelli used to play in Rainbow, and I got to play on the weekends with Richie Blackmore in a three-piece band with Bobby and Richie out in Connecticut. And I was the singing bass player guy. But you were also in a band with Gillan. Well, Ray Gillan came in. The original singer, well, the original Rondinelli band, before it was called that, was a guy named Jeff Van Holt, who's a fantastic singer. He tried out for Black Sabbath. He's actually on the TBN Channel 40 Christian Network. Yeah, he's an evangelist now, but he was on Broadway doing Jesus Christ Superstar back in the day. And so he had left. Felix Pappalardi was their original bass player, which blows my mind. I'm such a big Mountain fan. So I showed up there, and they handed me his violin bass. Now, the thing about Felix Pappalardi was he had been shot and killed by his wife, you know, but yeah, terrible way to, nonetheless. But anyway, so that's how I showed up over there. Eventually, we got Ray Gillan in there, and after that, Ray ended up going to Black Sabbath, and then with Jakey Lee in
Badlands.
Badlands, thank you very much.
Eric Singer was also in that band.
Eric Singer was also in there. Do you know that after I recorded the White Lion record, Pride, I was out here visiting my girlfriend, and Ray called me up, and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm out here visiting." He goes, "Why don't you stop by?" And oddly enough, that little room in the corner where we were, he said, "Come on down to rehearsal. Jake's there, and Eric's there, and, you know, we really need a bass player." I said, "Well, you know, I got the White Lion thing, you know, that's going on." And they said, "Oh, just come on, man. I want you to jam with the guys." So we go into the room, and we play a few songs, and it's a very tiny room, as you know. And back then, they had a drum riser up to about there. And Eric had his toms, and I couldn't even see him. I was like, "Hey, Eric." But anyway, we jammed, Jakey and all that, and we played a couple of chords. And I had asked Ray, I said, "You got to take me to the airport, because I got to get back to New York." And so we finished playing, and I go into the little men's room over there. And Ray breaks down the door while I'm standing there doing my business, and he says to me, he goes, "So what'd you think, man? Jakey loves you. You want to join?" And I said, "I don't know, it's kind of cool, but all right, well, take me to the airport. Let me think about it." I swear to God, this is true. Puts on the radio. We get into his little, I think it was like one of those little Mustang cars. Turns on the radio, and it's the first time I ever heard the song Wait. and he came on just that moment. He turned it on. So I looked at it. We kind of laughed at each other, and I said, "Let's take me to the airport, man."
Yeah.
Thanks. Just not to be. But.
Now, another amazing thing is that you toured with David Lee Roth and
Absolutely.
played with David Lee Roth in 2003.
Yes, that was great. We went on the Sam and Dave tour where Sammy Hagar opened up, and we played the greatest hits of both versions of Van Halen. And if you ask Dave to this point, I'm sure he'll agree that we were the better version. But, you know, we got all the old songs, so it was pretty good.
What was David Lee Roth like?
He was the best. I got to tell you, I mean, he was one of my favorite guys to be in a band with. He's one of the few guys that I got into a band with, and once I got on stage, I actually kind of looked at it and got really kind of like, whoa, like he is that guy. Like he gets on stage and the whole thing becomes like his persona just blows up. That was a really exciting couple of I think it was 3 or 4 years for me. Ray Luzier, who's in Korn now, was playing drums, and we had a couple of guitar players. Brian Young was the guy who came in and played, and it was great, man. It was just killer 3-piece thing, and from that, I got together with Ray, and Toshi Aiketu came in as the second guitar player and made the Hideous Sun Demons, which nobody knows about, but it's a great jazz fusion record. Go buy it.
And then one of the things that most people will ask any musician that's toured with David Lee Roth is, what was the debauchery level like on that kind of tour, or was Dave just over it by that time?
Dave was mostly over it. Every once in a while when we saw the Tiki Hut come out, we knew that it was going to be off the hook. Okay. Most of his stuff was creative at that point, and what we did was usually he was trying to do this video film. So then the Playboy bunnies came out, and, you know, all the bikers and armed assassins. I mean, real guys from the Army unit, you know, the berets and everything would show up to these things, and he'd film it all. And
then Megadeth. Now, what was it like? Because the original bass player for Megadeth, Dave Ellefson, I mean, those guys pretty much grew up together and created Megadeth. So what was it like taking his place and then working with Dave?
Well, like most bands, you know, over the years, you know, you don't see things eye to eye. It becomes an extended family, and you know what happens in your family. You know, I know what happens in mine, right? So Dave had been, Ellefson had been gone for a while. There was a lovely bass player named McDonough, who filled in, and he was doing great. And for whatever reason, there was an opening. A friend of mine called me up, said, "Do you want to play in one of the big 4 bands?" And I said, "Well, Metallica's already taken. Trio's got that one, so it's Megadeth." He goes, "Well, I can't tell you." And I said, "Well, it's going to be Megadeth." He goes, "Yeah, send a tape." So I sent off some stuff, and Dave Mustaine called me up, and he was he said, "I love your music. Come on down, let's talk." And I guess we did 4 years. And as this Big 4 tour came up, they reconciled. And I was thrilled because I had actually suggested, you know, to a degree that I said, man, you know, that would be great for the fans if you know, Dave Ellefson did come back into the band at some time. I wasn't really talking about last year.
Where did the selflessness come from?
Oh, I've been doing this forever. You know what? And like, for me, the shelf life of touring and being in bands, like after you're out on the road for 4 years and you do a couple of albums and stuff like that, it's a lot, you know. So at that point, you know, I was getting a little road weary. So I was prepared to go on the tour, actually, which would have been fine. But since they had reconciled and all that, I was thrilled because I'm not going to say I'd had my fill of Megadeth because I really enjoyed doing it. But at that point, it was 2 albums and 4 tours, and we went around the world 4 times. You know, so it was a lot.
And now you are in the supergroup Dio Disciples.
Yeah,
now,
this I could not resist. You know, I was on tour in White Lion with Simon Wright was playing for AC/DC, and I used to watch that show every night, and I knew who he was, and so, you know, the thrill of having him call me up and go, "Hey James, you know," "Hey James, you know, we really can't make it. Can you do it?" I was like, "In a second, pal," you know.
Tell me what the camaraderie is like in this band so far.
This is the easiest thing I've probably done in a very long time because there's a great work ethic. Everybody's getting the job done, but everybody's here for this wonderful reason, and that's I don't know if I can stress that enough because, I mean, you know, it could be kind of tawdry if it wasn't, you know, Ronnie's band, which it is, you know. So getting into this thing, everybody's like really very, very cautious about making sure the music is up to standard, making sure that, you know, that they play the right songs, they do the right endings, the right guy sings the right song, you know, the singers themselves are, you know, they're going, okay, you take this one, your voice sounds a little better, I'm going to take the harmony on this one. So, I mean, there's a lot of care going into this thing, and I think that's going to definitely reflect itself when we bring it out to the fans. And so there's an excitement about this, a bittersweet excitement, as I said before, but nonetheless, you know.
Now, James, what are your 2 favorite songs to perform live in Dio's Disciples?
That changes day by day. You know, I always love Holy Diver because, you know, that's one of the big breakthrough songs that he had. But I actually like some of the old Rainbow songs.
Great talking to you, man. You are a cool dude.
Eric Blair, former bass player, friend of mine.
Blaring Out with Eric Blair show with Dio Disciples, bassist James LoMenzo. Signing off.
The Blaring Out Show.